The prison went dark without warning. 1 second the cell block was glowing with the dull yellow lights that never turned off. The next second, everything disappeared into thick black darkness. No lights, no humming electricity, nothing. Ethan Walker grabbed the edge of his bunk as the darkness swallowed the room. Across the tiny cell, someone slowly stood up. Metal chains softly rattled. Ethan knew exactly who was standing there. The man locked inside the cell with him. The man every inmate whispered about. A killer named Victor Kane. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Ethan heard something that made his skin crawl. Victor was laughing. Not loud, not wild, just a quiet, calm laugh that echoed in the darkness. From somewhere down the hallway, a man began screaming. Another voice shouted. Metal doors slammed. Feet pounded against the concrete floor. Something terrible was happening in the prison. But Ethan could not see anything. He could only hear Victor moving slowly through the darkness of the cell. Step, step, step. Victor's voice came out of the blackness. Looks like the prison went dark, he said softly. Ethan's heart slammed in his chest. Because Victor Kane was not supposed to be out of his bunk. And in the darkness, Ethan had no idea where he was standing now. 3 weeks earlier, Ethan Walker had never even been inside a jail cell. He was 24 years old and lived in Ohio. He worked as a mechanic at a small auto shop owned by his uncle. Most days were simple. Fix engines, change tires, go home tired but happy. He had never been in serious trouble. But one bad night changed everything. It started when Ethan agreed to give his friend Tyler a ride after work. Tyler asked if he could stop by a small house to pick something up. Ethan waited in the car. 5 minutes later, police cars surrounded the street. Flashing red and blue lights filled the night. Officers ordered Ethan out of the car. They searched the vehicle. Inside Tyler's backpack, they found a stolen handgun. Tyler ran. Ethan stayed. And that was the moment everything went wrong. The police arrested Ethan for possession of the weapon, even though it was not his. Even though Tyler disappeared. Ethan's public defender told him the truth he did not want to hear. Take the plea deal, the lawyer said. 2 years in state prison. Ethan felt sick. But I didn't do anything, he said. The lawyer sighed. I know, but trials are risky. 3 weeks later, Ethan walked to the tall iron gates of Blackridge State Prison. The place looked like a concrete fortress. Gray walls, barbed wire curling along the top, guard towers staring down like silent eyes. The moment Ethan stepped inside, he felt something heavy settle in his chest. Fear. The guards processed him quickly. Fingerprints. Photos. A prison uniform. One officer leaned close while handing Ethan his clothes. Keep your head down, the officer muttered. Blackridge eats people alive. Ethan tried to laugh, but the guard's face stayed serious. He realized the man was not joking. The first few days in prison felt like a nightmare. Doors slammed constantly. Men shouted down the hallways. Some inmates laughed loudly while others stared with hard, empty eyes. Ethan learned quickly not to look at anyone for too long. In prison, eye contact could start a fight. His first cellmate was an older man named Carl who mostly slept and read old magazines. Carl kept to himself and barely spoke. Ethan felt lucky, but that luck did not last. One afternoon, during count time, a guard stopped in front of Ethan's cell. Walker, the guard barked. Ethan stood up quickly. Yes, sir. Pack your stuff. Ethan's stomach twisted. Did I do something wrong? The guard did not answer. He simply opened the cell door and pointed down the hallway. Ethan grabbed his small bag and followed. They walked through 2 steel doors and down a quieter corridor. The noise of the main block faded behind them. This section of the prison felt different. Colder, quieter, more dangerous. Ethan noticed something strange. Inmates inside these cells did not shout. They watched, silent. The guard stopped in front of cell 17. He unlocked the door and stepped aside. New home, the guard said. Ethan walked inside slowly. The cell was small. 2 bunks, a steel toilet, gray walls covered in scratch names. Someone sat on the lower bunk. The man looked up. His face was calm. Too calm. He had sharp eyes and short dark hair. A thin scar ran across his cheek. The guard locked the door behind Ethan. "Meet your new roommate," the guard said. Then he walked away. Ethan swallowed. "Hey," he said nervously. "I'm Ethan." The man stared at him for a moment. Then he smiled slightly. Victor Kane. The name meant nothing to Ethan, but the reaction from the other inmates came quickly. From the next cell, a whisper slid through the bars. "Kid, you know who that is?" Ethan shook his head. The whisper came again. "That's Kane." Another voice joined from down the hall. "The killer." Ethan's stomach turned cold. Victor leaned back against the wall, like he had heard it 1,000 times before. He looked at Ethan calmly. "Don't worry," Victor said softly. "I'm very easy to live with." Days passed slowly. Victor rarely spoke. He spent most of his time reading old books or staring quietly at the wall. Sometimes he hummed soft songs under his breath. Ethan tried to believe the rumors were wrong, but the other inmates kept whispering. One night, during dinner trays, a prisoner from the next cell leaned close to the bars. "You should ask him what he did," the man whispered. Ethan shook his head. "No thanks." The prisoner smirked. "They say he killed 3 men. Ethan's chest tightened. Later that night, when the cell block lights dimmed, Ethan finally asked, "Victor?" Victor looked up from his book. "Yeah." "Why do people call you a killer?" Victor closed the book slowly. For a moment he did not answer. Then he gave a small shrug. "Because it's true." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Victor spoke again. "But prison stories get bigger every time they're told." He smiled faintly. "People love monsters." Ethan did not sleep much that night. A week later, strange things started happening inside Blackridge. Guards looked tense. Lockdowns happened more often. One afternoon, alarms sounded in another wing. No one explained why. Rumors spread through cells. A gang fight, a guard attacked, a planned escape. No one knew the truth, but everyone felt the tension growing. That night, Victor sat quietly on his bunk. "You feel that?" he asked. Ethan looked at him. "Feel what?" Victor tilted his head slightly. "The prison is holding its breath." Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" Victor smiled faintly. "It means something bad is coming." 2 nights later, Ethan woke suddenly. Something felt wrong. The hallway outside was strangely quiet. Too quiet. Victor was sitting upright on his bunk, staring toward the bars. "What time is it?" Ethan whispered. Victor checked the clock on the wall. 2:16 a.m. Then it happened. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the lights died. The entire prison went dark. A loud crash echoed somewhere down the corridor. Then shouting, running footsteps, metal doors banging. Someone screamed. Victor slowly stood up from his bunk, and in the darkness of the tiny cell, Ethan heard the unmistakable sound of handcuffs hitting the floor.